You've done the journaling, you've meditated, you've read the books, but it still feels messy, lonely, even draining. If you've ever questioned why doesn't this feel better yet, you're not alone. Because here's the truth. We don't talk about this enough. Healing isn't always soft. It isn't always empowering in the moment. Sometimes healing feels like breaking, and sometimes growth feels like grief. In this episode, we're peeling back the layers of what real transformation looks like, the kind that doesn't make the highlight reel but rewires you forever. Welcome back to Mindset Health Empowerment. You're listening to the Unfiltered Trainer podcast. I'm your host, Gina Marie Fit, author of The Badass Blueprint, founder of Sweating Together for a Cause, and a person on a mission to help you break cycles, build strength, and become the boldest version of yourself inside and out. Let's get into today's episode. The illusion of aesthetic healing. We're constantly shown a version of healing that looks beautiful. Bubble baths, clean counters, face masks, Sunday resets, sage, and sunlight. But healing isn't an aesthetic. It's a battlefield between your past identity and your future self. Healing on social media is often curated. It's filtered moments of calm, not the chaos it takes to actually get there. When you don't see your own mess reflected back, it can make you feel like you're behind, broken, or maybe even like you're doing it wrong. Real healing is crying after setting a boundary. It's sitting in silence when your old self would have reacted, and it's detaching from people who once felt like home. While you're actively in this phase of healing, it feels like confusion, emotional exhaustion, and even self-doubt. You may constantly ask yourself, why am I still triggered, or is this even working? While you're growing through it, you start noticing that space between stimulus and response is beyond refreshing. You don't need to choose rage. You actually start to notice that you're choosing rest, and it feels oddly refreshing. If those around you don't necessarily quote unquote get it, some may mock your growth. Others may even minimize your healing. But protecting your peace at all costs is a must. You don't owe anyone an explanation for healing in a way that feels sacred to you. Let them watch your peace increase and your reaction decrease. It'll speak volumes for itself. Healing doesn't always look like healing, but when it starts to feel like friction, you are doing it right. Because breaking generational patterns, it hurts. Nobody tells you that healing means that you're going to go through a grieving process. You're not just going to grieve people, but you're going to grieve patterns, stories, and roles that you didn't even choose to play but once existed. Breaking trauma cycles means confronting the beliefs that you were raised on and that you inherently have thought were part of your identity. It means resting when your family felt like glorifying hustle. It means saying no when your past self was the peacekeeper or the people pleaser. You may even experience a phase where you actually feel guilty because you're choosing a different path from those around you. And that is something that takes time to work through, but are valuable lessons that you will experience. When you're actively in it, this phase of healing can honestly feel like heartbreak, and you may feel like you're having an identity crisis. You start realizing that your values don't align with people you love, and you feel like you're too much or quote unquote too different. When you're growing through it, you begin to feel peace in your own presence. Your clarity gets stronger even when your circle gets smaller, and you stop shrinking to stay included. If those around you aren't ready to grow with you, release the need to be understood by people who aren't doing the work, because you are not responsible for their growth. You are solely responsible for your own. And remind yourself that you're not abandoning them. You're just reclaiming who you were always meant to be. Breaking patterns doesn't mean that you stop loving the people in your life. It just means that you finally start to love yourself enough to prioritize your own needs. Creating safety in the messy middle, as I call it, is the space that no one talks about. It's when you're no longer who you were, but you're also not who you're becoming yet. It's quiet, it's oftentimes awkward, and it's where most people give up because it gets hard. Your nervous system may be finally learning how to feel safe. This season can feel dull, confusing, or empty. This is where we learn to self-regulate. We learn how to properly rest and prioritize our own needs instead of prioritizing everyone around us. Regulation tools that are really helpful when you're in this phase is breath work. It's so simple. You can activate and utilize this resource no matter where you are. Focus on breathing in on 4 and exhaling on 8, and watch how your nervous system rests and relaxes. Another simple thing you can do that costs you nothing is simply to walk or to stretch. When you're stretching and walking and focusing on your breath work, you're getting like a little double whammy, resetting your system, and you always feel so much better. If you're somebody that likes to do tangible things, journaling, meditating, or even taking a digital detox can be extremely helpful, and use this time as self-reflection. While you're going through this phase of your healing and growth journey, it can feel like numbness. Or you can even feel like you've lost your identity. You might wonder why nothing feels exciting anymore, or why you feel like you're kind of just floating through life, unsure of the direction of where you're supposed to be going. When you're growing through it, you begin choosing calm over chaos, not out of fear, but actually out of alignment. You notice you're less reactive, more grounded, and you really do feel like yourself. You no longer chase highs, you choose healing. If others aren't evolving at the same pace as you, don't force your pace onto others. Let your pace speak louder than the persuasion that you are trying to uphold. This season will naturally filter out who is meant to grow beside you, and trust the quiet that it's building the clarity you need to move forward. Sometimes when you're in these phases, especially when life is quiet, things have slowed down, you may start to notice that the old you starts whispering. It'll say, it's easier. Just go back to who you used to be. Go back to that comfortable job, or go back to that comfortable person. Even when you're growing, there are days when the old version of you will creep in. The people pleaser, the overthinker, the overgiver. The version of you that tolerated things that now you know you wouldn't. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you that you needed to be someone else. The old you shows up strongest when you're tired, overwhelmed, or emotionally stretched. It's normal to feel tempted to revert back to your old ways, especially when healing gets lonely or the growth is slow. That doesn't mean you're broken or going backwards. It means you're rewiring the habits that were once used as survival. You can love the version of yourself that kept you safe and still choose to be better. What I want you to remember is to pause, breathe, and then respond with love, not shame. You're not that person anymore, and you're allowed to miss her while still outgrowing her. Remember that self-worth without performance is what's necessary. Ask yourself, who am I when I'm not fixing, producing, or trying to prove myself? We live in a culture that glorifies doing, so when you start healing and pulling back from the hustle, it feels uncomfortable. Your worth is not in your output. It's not in how many people you help or how much you produce. Healing often asks you to do less so you can feel more, and that triggers identity discomfort like no other. You may struggle with feeling lazy, selfish, or not useful during these rest periods, and that's not programming, because that's not truth. Letting go of hustle doesn't make you unmotivated. It means you're finally honoring your capacity. You can lead, impact, and inspire without constantly being in motion. So what to do? Ask, who am I without my productivity standards? Then allow the answer to unfold without panic. You are enough already as you are, and even in your moments of stillness. Now, it's time to let go without closure. Sometimes you won't get an apology, you won't have the opportunity to meet with somebody, but you'll still have to heal from the circumstances and situations you've experienced. One of the hardest parts of healing is accepting that you may never get the closure you crave. No apology, no explanation, no validation. You are going to have to move on as you are. Closure isn't something others give you. It actually can be something you decide to take. Waiting for someone to validate your pain often keeps you tethered to it and to them. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It simply means freeing yourself from the weight that you once carried. You can move forward without mutual understanding, and peace can be found when you stop needing others to see it your own way. One way to say this to yourself is to say, I release the need to be understood. I choose freedom over explanation. Now, integration over information can be difficult because you don't need more tools. You need to trust yourself to use what you already have. In the age of content overload, we are inundated with information, options, and programs. It's easy to stay stuck in learning instead of focused on living. You've likely consumed enough podcasts, hello, we're all here, books and courses, so now it's time to apply what you've heard and what you've learned. Integration is where wisdom is built. Repeating one practice is more powerful than chasing 10 new ones that you do half-assed. Start small. One grounding tool a day, one habit shift a week. Don't wait to feel that sense of readiness. Growth is built through consistent, imperfect action. And healing isn't about mastering more, it's about embodying what you already know. So what do? Pick one thing from your healing toolbox and do it today. Don't wait. Don't try to make sure that it's aesthetically pleasing. Don't scroll for answers. Sit with what you already carry and embrace it. Once you've been able to do that, then you can redefine what healed looks like. Because what if healing doesn't mean perfect peace, but instead it actually means deeper self-trust? We chase the idea of being quote unquote healed, but maybe healing isn't actually a final destination. Maybe it's a relationship within yourself. Healing doesn't necessarily mean that you never get triggered because we are human. It means you catch it sooner and recover quicker and let it affect you significantly less. It's not about constant happiness. It's about emotional honesty. It's not about avoiding hard moments. It's about facing them with new tools and deeper grace. A healed version of you isn't perfect. It's integrated, present, and anchored. You can still be healing and be whole at the same time. So ask yourself, how do I want to feel within myself, not just around others? And let that be the definition and the catalyst of your healing. Something that I've learned in my healing journey is that you can love people and still choose space. Grace, distance, and growing with compassion is a part of this phase of life. Healing doesn't mean cutting people off with resentment. Sometimes it means loving them from a distance. Giving grace while honoring your growth is so empowering and at the same time really inspiring. Understanding that others may not be where you are is something we all have to learn with and be okay. Because when you start to heal, it invites empathy, not superiority, into your life. You may begin to see others' patterns more clearly, but judgment doesn't have to be a part of that journey. Everyone is healing at their own pace, or some may not be ready to heal at all. That doesn't make you better. It makes you responsible for how you react. Grace allows you to soften your responses without self-abandoning. Grace isn't tolerating disrespect. It's actually acknowledging that others are showing up with their own wounds and limitations while still deciding how close they can get to you. Distance doesn't have to be some dramatic explanation. Not every separation needs to come with a speech or an explosion. Quiet detachment, shifting how you show up, or lessening emotional investment is still valid. You can forgive without re-entering the dynamic. And I think this is so powerful because forgiveness is about freedom and it doesn't have to be about reconnection. You're allowed to say, I care about you, but this doesn't feel safe for me anymore. And self-compassion includes how you speak to yourself in this process. Don't shame yourself for needing space. You're not cold. You're not heartless. You are just healing. While you're in this phase of healing, you might feel guilt, confusion, or even question your loyalty to people. Others may accuse you of changing or being distant. Your nervous system may grieve what actually once felt familiar, even if it wasn't necessarily healthy. When you're growing through it, you might feel lighter after setting boundaries. You start showing up more authentically in relationships that feel aligned, and you stop trying to fix or overextend yourself because you trust people to meet you where they can. And if others don't understand, grace also means not needing to convince them. Let your energy speak for itself. You are allowed to create peace without explaining your process. And remember that compassion doesn't mean closeness. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. You can be kind and still protect your peace at all costs. Hopefully this episode was healing. Hopefully it will help you in your journey. But if it's brought you peace, perspective, or maybe even given you a little bit of power in who you are and where you're going, I highly encourage you to share it with somebody, because those in your life are also stuck in the messy middle too. And something we all have to remember is that your healing doesn't have to be beautiful to be valid. Your progress doesn't have to be loud to be real, and you don't have to be perfect to feel worthy. You're already enough. You just have to remember it. All right, y'all, subscribe, share, and tag me, Gina Marie Fit, and at the Unfiltered Trainer to hear about your takeaways. And if you really want to take it up a next level, get the full framework in my book, The Badass Blueprint, available on Amazon in hardback and paperbook, and actively implement the steps in that book to truly create the game-changing platform that will be the catalyst for who you are, where you're going, and everything along the way. All right, y'all, stay real, stay bold, stay rooted in growth, and I will see you in the next episode.